Hi, this is Kevin from Let Me Tech You, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over network security groups in Azure and where it could be best to place them, whether it be on the network interface level or on the subnet level when you're making your allow and deny rules. So, a network security group is almost like if you're familiar with Windows, it could be something as simple as a Windows firewall, kind of. And, as far as with Linux, something like IP tables. And with that, you basically have a way to allow and deny particular types of traffic, whether it be RDP traffic, database type traffic, web traffic, and it gives you a simple interface to do this in. But a lot of questions people have is, where should I apply this? Should I apply it at the subnet level? Should I apply this at my network interface level? Things like that. And if you're on your actual VM itself, you could take it a step further and make specific changes on the VM level as well, whether it's Windows Firewall or a firewall directly on your Linux machine. So whenever you create a network security group, I'm going to just get into just some of the basics on this. You're going to see these default ones that are created, and these are default from Azure to allow certain types of communications to flow automatically. So as you can see here, we have allow VNet inbound. So basically, these are tags. So it's saying source is virtual network, destination is virtual network. So this is saying we allow any VNet inbound communication from virtual network to virtual network. And so you might maybe wondering, okay, what's the ranges that are for these? Well, these tags basically are provided by Azure and they consume the IP ranges for your virtual network. And then for like the Azure load balancer for the internet and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of other service tags that you can kind of apply, whether it's for different types of Azure resources. That way, you don't have to always come in and manually add in new IP addresses when those change through Azure's backend. So, if you notice here on the left hand side, a lot of the security rules that you work with in networking may have some type of precedence that's applied based on the numbering. And as you can see here, the deny all inbound is last. So this is our implicit deny. Basically, if you don't match anything above, you're going to get denied unless we implicitly say you can get to whatever you need to get to. So inbound security rules can be added. So you typically want to add some buffer in between. So you see how this is 65,000, this is 001, and this is 65,500. So we can essentially add some in here. You don't have any room to add between here, but when you're adding them, you want to go by some incremental number in case you need to shift and move some stuff around. So instead of going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. So once you get things added, I'm going to you can add these at the subnet level, or basically if we go back here to our resources, I'm going to go to my VNet. So my VNet is my virtual network for everything that's encompassed inside this virtual network. All the different subnets, resources, things you deploy will sit inside this VNet. Think of it as its own private network. And as you can see, our address space is 10.0.0.0/16. And we have some subnets here. We have this one subnet that I built. So at the subnet level, you might have multiple resources that could potentially need access or not need access depending on the type of services you provide. So let's say, for instance, you want to add a network security group at the subnet level, but you're adding a rule that allows RDP in. Well, let's say you have 10 different virtual machines, but you really only need RDP access to one of those. Well, you can definitely go ahead and add the network security group here. And sometimes the portal is kind of funky with showing it in here, but let me show you a way we can actually go to the actual network security group. And if we go to subnets, we can associate it. Let's see, is this still deploying? Let's open up another portal here. Sometimes it can take some time to actually get signed in here. Let's just make sure. Oh, actually, let's make sure we're in the right region. So East US, it's fine. And let's go back to my subnets here. It's still not showing it here. Let me check here. Okay, so it took a little time for it to come up. So sometimes that happens in the portal. You might have some delays in when certain screens show changes that were made. I had deployed this environment using Terraform, so maybe it could have been a little bit with that. And then the network security group I deployed manually. But if we're going back to like what I was saying, if we come here and we actually apply our network security group on the subnet level, we can kind of think about this as, let me see if I can, I don't know if I have anything that can depict what I mean, but so basically, let's say we have like a large group of resources in this subnet, and you configure RDP to allow access to your VM. So I'm going to actually apply this at the subnet level here. I don't have any, let me go back here. So this IP is my outside IP address for one of my VMs. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to my remote desktop connection, and let's add a PC here. So we're going to paste that in, and we're just going to hit add. Now, as you can see, no connection that we can get to that. And if we go and look at our network security group here, we can see we don't have anything that allows RDP inbound from the outside. So to do that, we're going to add in this particular rule, and source is going to be any. Destination is going to be, let's just do any here, and then RDP, and then allow. And then we're going to put this at 100. Okay, so we get the little mark because we're basically allowing any into our network. And now if I go here, and let's give that a second. Now I'm on a Mac, so this little tool here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so administrator, and then my default password that I set up on this machine for testing. And let's paste that in there. So now, well, I don't know, maybe might have got the wrong username in there. Let me check and make sure that's correct. Oh, admin user. Okay. Admin user. So as you can see, so we put it at the subnet level. So now, but the only thing with that problem is we now allowed access to every machine that's in that subnet for RDP access. Now, the thing with that is you can skinny it down to only that IP's, that machine's external IP address or internal IP address or whatever, to be able to allow RDP access to it. And then now you can, basically say, hey, you know what, you can eliminate the fact that you could, affect other machines and stuff like that. But then you get into other things where now you're only allowing, you got certain rule sets for only certain VMs. If you make a change that's detrimental to, say, 5 VMs or 5 other ones, your blast radius is just a lot higher now. So now instead of doing that, you can essentially use the subnet level as like your rules to only allow specific things into the network. And then on the actual VM level, you can actually assign, uh, network related things that's only related to, say, that particular VM. So you can eliminate the subnet level altogether. And if we go back to our subnets here, and let's disassociate this. Probably going to lose this connection. Might take a little bit of time. But basically, once that's gone, we're not going to be able to gain access to that. And I want to try and, let's see if it allows us in there. And it might be actually because we have a stateful connection going. So if I actually ended this, then let's say if I try going back into it, it's still letting me. So it could be a delay. So there are some. So once you remove that from the subnet, this isn't associated with anything, but let's actually go and delete this too as well. Now the rules are typically pretty quick as far as like the disassociation that goes with them. Yeah, so it looks like it's probably some little delay there. So once that's done, we then look at the network interface level. And so for the network interface level, you now skin your blast radius down into only allowing that particular machine to be accessed by RDP. You can now prioritize rule sets to only be significant to that VM itself. But the only downside to it is you do run into some inconsistencies. So if you are trying to have some type of standard across the board, you could essentially run into having one VM set differently than another one is. So you could have some interfering rule sets across the board. But again, it just depends on your network and how your resources are being utilized. So a lot of you people then get into using more advanced level firewalls such as like Palo Alto, Cisco ASA, and you can do things like destination NAT, inbound, outbound policies for what you can allow in and out. So you get a lot more granularity, and you can get into more of seeing what's actually being transversal across your network, your north-south traffic. So again, there really isn't any best, scenario. It's basically what's, beneficial for your network. I always tend to kind of lean towards applying network security groups at the interface level, and only because, if you do run into a problem, you can only have to, for a fact that it's only going to affect the one machine itself. Now, if you do have like a group of machines that are obviously in the same subnet and they all serve the same purpose, then it would make sense to actually put the network security group at the subnet level, because there's no point in managing five, network security groups that are all going to do the same thing when you can just put one network security group on the subnet level and manage them all from there. So again, that's it. If you have any questions in regards to how that's set up, or any other questions in regards to the default rules that are applied, you can always reach out below. I'll be sure to answer any questions you have. Again, if you have any questions on actually what's actually being applied, you can actually look at some of the effective security rules and some of the other network security flows, which I'll do another video on later. Again, check out my blog, letmetechyou.com. Please like and subscribe. And thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you next time.